Hi, welcome to Honesty and Ascension. This is Roxy, and we're going to channel once again for you today. Thanks for tuning in. Greetings once again to the collective. This is Ocyphius from the Oversoul Collective Fire. We shall continue our series on the idea of the 12 Indoctrines given forth by the speaker, that of Jane. And greetings once again to the collective. This is Jane. Thank you so much once again for allowing this co-creation to take place in your space-time now. We would like to continue on the idea of the first initiate school, that idea of the first indoctrine, that of the entire universe is always 100% subjective. As I recall, the next idea for us to impart upon you is the study time that we incurred. The first part of the study time was to, let's say, bring up each individual, what you call teacher idea, would be the idea of teacher-learner, and the initiates are learner-teacher. So in that kind of idea, the teacher-learners, the what you call priests or priestess, whatever, at the time, would take each individual idea initiate. Sometimes as the disciples, if you will, fell away, there were, let's say, teachers that would float within the idea of the others. And we would give historical timelines on events that were, let's say, not recallable in the idea of the mind of those historical, let's say, memories given to each entity at that space-time now. So we would offer these ideas of, let's say, wars, controversy, political agendas, things that would bring up the idea of polarization, the idea of what you would understand as negative or positive. It is each entity's idea for them to journey and remember what they are. You are always in service of yourself by, let's say, servicing other self. In that fashion, you are not obligated or determined for some idea of an outcome to be in service to other self, that of Mother Teresa. That is her journey. Allow her. But you need not be that idea. Your idea of service to self, not, let's say, choosing to be at the expense of others, is servicing yourself to remember that you are journeying home to what you have forgotten. You are the creator, the individual, all that is. So in that, we would offer perspectives to each idea initiate of what you would call historical dramas, the histories, the, let's say, things that would be out of bounds of what you call natural state of being, that of the state of love, what your natural self is. In these offerings, this would offer, of course, an idea of a view of another subjective view of the universe. The idea of how they would act with their systems in place of belief systems according to the construct, rather, of humanity at that space-time now. We would discuss in great detail the ideas and, let's say, theorize the idea of how any individual discussion being we were talking of at the time would be, let's say, motivated to act in such a manner. We could then break down ideas through all the initiates in this idea co-creation discussion, could break down the idea of belief systems that were, let's say, unseen. And many ideas, since the class is now free to speak because there is no judgment, in that idea would come up with deep and, let's say, obscure observations of what you would understand, belief systems that is unnoticed on your timeline, yourself, or let's say even in the collective of the entire group. And maybe something would spawn to build a bridge, to build a bridge, to build a bridge, to find maybe a deep hidden idea of a belief system that was birthed, that now is taking place within the framework of each entity, that they may journey within themselves and understand what belief system is causing, triggering, if you will, a program of, let's say, initial emotional, let's say, reaction to said stimuli, said catalyst in your environment, to act upon a certain way of themselves, and then viewing that idea maybe in this space-time now as not so polarized towards that of positive, towards that to service to other self, if you will. So each idea individual would, in let's say, remember a situation after and maybe would relate this to that and how they can equate their own belief systems. It is a most humbling act. The pride must be swallowed in this idea. For each is what you would call, most likely, giving up, let's say, a deep secret. Talking of what you would call possibly a sin. An act upon another that they are not what you call proud of. But all these are portions of journeying and expressing the Creator. The Creator is not upset at you expressing in whatever fashion you are expressing, because you are creating itself, the Creator, through your idea of yourself, the Creator, to continue the idea of creation. So in that idea, the human emotions of separation would bring forth more ideas of that idea of separation. And now they can see that when they are among what you would call friends, the acceptance of any act in, let's say, open awareness, talking about it, if you will, is not judged. Therefore, it is accepted. The healing can truly begin. It is much like you are in love with an idea of your spouse and you have a deep, dark secret and you cannot bring it forth for fear of that idea of your spouse, lover, choose what you will, best friend, a relationship that you hold, let's say, treasured value in. To bring forth an idea, but you don't want to because you fear loss of that friendship, of that acceptance, of that, let's say, thing that keeps you going if you get up in the morning because this person is there for you. In that idea. So if you can bring this idea, the healing that you bring forth to yourself by speaking something that has been harbored in you through, let's say, guilt, through you covering it up with excuses, justifying it through the idea of ego so you can live with yourself, and that idea would bring forth great healing once again when it is exposed to what you call creation. You are keeping it within you, hidden in that idea. When you bring it out as creation, as what you view it as now from the standpoint of creation, understanding yourself, then you can once again make yourself whole. That portion that was empty, so to speak, and you were trying to fill it with shit that would make no sense. But you would always try and stave off the true reality of birthing that into what you call creation so others may understand that you are journeying home and giving you full love and acceptance and compassion for these actions. Then you can truly heal and the guilt withers away. Oh yes, most certainly. So in that idea, we would take historical timelines that, let's say, of Ramtha, the Atlantean parallel that wiped out 10 billion ideas of civilization, people, entities, if you will, and ascending through what you would call negativity. Yes, you can most certainly do that once again. It is where you polarize the most that is ascension, let's say, worthy to an extent. The idea, it is much easier, if you will, to, let's say, ascend in the idea of what you would call positive. However, there is nothing out of bounds. For once again, entities of ascension, it is all creation. It is all the Creator experiencing itself through itself, that of you. And if you understand this from the standpoint of there is no thing that is judged, then you maybe can relieve yourself of some of the own inhibitions you are now harboring in your own actions with acceptance of others, scrutinies of others, and your own, let's say, free will choice of what makes you feel good, staving it off for your own benefits of your own acceptance to the others. Most certainly. So in this idea, we would speak of Ramta. Let's see, there's other interesting timelines. We did obviously travel to other Galactian ideas, planets, if you will, and speak about those ideas of 3D separation. Remember, the 3D separation did not start in what you call this galaxy as first separated. You learned separation while you were here, and of course, word got around, and more ideas of entities, what you call third density beings, would do their idea of the veil to a certain extent set up in the paradigm of that idea, civilization, call it what you will. So we would use parallel ideas of levels of degrees of separation to understand that every single person, from wherever they are, is always the subjective view of themselves, the reality that they solely created by themselves. It was only an offering to the others to allow to co-create within the entity, let's say, reality bubble. There is, once again, nobody in any space-time now forever that will not be in your reality unless you are in choice or aware at some conscious degree level of that interaction. And by the way, you're only one conscience. So of course you cannot dispute with another because there is no other. That's big thinking for you guys. And that will lead and open up new ideas for you to evolve to. Because there's only one of us, and that's you, most certainly. So we would discuss once again different ideas of what you would call steaming negativity in its fruitfulness, attracting towards polarity. These ideas, in the vast arrays of ways you can birth the idea of service to self in the negative aspect, would only offer each idea initiate on the vast awareness of how forgetfulness truly works. The depth of forgetfulness is in not only in the present idea of their own 3D reality, but many other 3D realities. The idea of separation is within, ideally, only in this Octavia of densities in the 3D reality. Go to another Octavia of densities, there's a 3D idea there as well. However, separation might be there or it might not be there. But it is to our knowledge, our understanding, that it only occurs in what you would call the third density. So we had any access to ourselves that we have directly experienced other third densities to bring forth the wonderful variation of separation among all ideas, only leading to that of the initiate to broaden their scope of their own limitations, because they are now getting catalysts that would work in the fashion of expansion instead of inhibiting, which is much like your system that you have now. You cannot move or theorize in the idea of fact until it is experimented upon, and then it becomes a reality of fact, and of course it shifts because everything is always constantly changing. So these catalysts were offered in the open mind to allow each entity to explore within themselves their own separation veil that they have created so they can remember themselves and create this portion of all that is from that individual perspective. How beautiful is that? So the initiates, we would do, let's say, ideas of historical timelines that would be most probably 6 to 8 weeks long, and we would do and mix and match what you call different initiates, and then of course the initiates would be that of the teacher-learner with the other students, and now let's say cutting their teeth, if you will, upon the idea of becoming a teacher-learner instead of that of a learner-teacher. So in that idea, each initiate took turn and brought up their own idea of historical timelines of what they would define in this space-time now as a negative polarized entity creating that of themselves for a certain purpose of expansion. And in that idea, we came up with, in every different class, most certainly, always came up with ideas of new, unseen before realities that were veiled that we have never experienced. So all of us, of course, became the learner-teacher, most certainly. So in this idea, this is how this occurred for, once again, the next 6 to 8 weeks, depending upon how many different entities have remained to further themselves in the first initiate school. And this is all the idea of the first idea of the subjective reality. We want you to understand that the idea of the subjective reality is the truth that you cannot shake, you cannot change. There is an ultimate reality. Do you know what it is? The ultimate reality is how you choose the ultimate reality to be. It will never be a fact. There will never be a way to see things, a way to be things. Ever. It cannot be, for you are free will choice. And that subjective ultimate reality is how you get to choose reality all the time. How beautiful is that? So when you understand that you are the creator through your vibrational context of state of being, always have been and will be the creator of your reality bubble, and how you get to perceive your own isness, creation, expression of all that is, the creator, is subjective. How beautiful is that? When you really grasp at the depth of your core meaning to remember, you already know this, to remember what you truly are, through the idea of loving the idea of a subjective reality, that you are choosing your reality through your vibrational sense, should give you an idea of how powerful you are. The magician that you have all forgotten, the magician that lies in fourth density, being there that you can call in at any time. And we're not talking the magical magician idea of negativity, witchcraft, if that idea spawns in your head. We're talking about the density idea of fourth density being the creator of this idea in the third density. And this idea of the third density has access to that idea in the fourth density most certainly. And you can bring those ideas, Merlin, down into this idea of what you would call here. Not to be an idea of a magician, but once you understand the subjective reality is your choice and your vibrational isness is that of your reality, you will remember portions of yourself to be that of the magician, manipulating your reality, shifting yourself, not at the expense of others, because that will collapse the system of your magician immediately, for the magician is not polarized in the negative sense. The magician most certainly is love-light. If you bring or call upon an idea that is thwarted with the, let's say, thread of negative polarization, then you will most certainly, let's say, stave off that ability. It is not an ability for an idea of an ego separation to stand upon. We are offering you this idea so you can see if you are feeling yourself in the moment wanting to be the ego separation of the magician, exposing only more ideas of your own polarization to yourself of negativity instead of that what you already are. You are already that idea. It is only you who want it in a certain way to achieve an idea of a certain gratification. And any kind of seeking of gratification outside of the now is that of the ego complex looking to once again accomplish and validate itself in a sense of awareness that it is still what you would call alive. So in this idea, understand that when you view yourself as your own creator of your reality, you are viewing the subjective view of yourself in the immediacy of the now to put out the next idea, time is an ally, of yourself. You can shift that idea of the mirror and then realize that just by you viewing any circumstance in the positive idea, any circumstance, in the positive idea, the next idea now will be that reflected back to you of a higher sense of yourself. You remember. So now you see the subjective view is a choice to shift your reality into the next awareness of yourself, creating more of what you would call an umbilical cord, silver cord, bridge, if you will, to that of the significator. The significator is that of you, your higher self, and the portion of the mind-body complex, spirit-body-mind complex, if you will. And that idea of the magician dwells within that connection. So now that connection could be made because you are not doing it in the idea of accomplishment, you are doing it now in the idea of acceptance. And this acceptance of yourself, you love yourself, you accept yourself, and you create as yourself. You do these items and you will pour in more of the idea of what you have forgotten in the magical sense of what you truly are. And now this is done in the humility aspect of yourself, humbling yourself not before God, oh no, before yourself, the God that you've forgotten. In this way, you fall in love with yourself, and the idea coupled now with the subjective point of view, creating your reality from your own awareness, choice, isness, if you will. And now that idea can spawn into another epic reality. It is not a concern of you of any of the outcomes of the future. Outcome is an idea of an accomplishment. There is no accomplishing because you are already accomplishing more than you can ever imagine in your idea of your veil. So if you take this idea of you loving, being, and truly being the isness of yourself and allowing yourself to pour yourself into yourself with no, let's say, coupling of egoic separation, then you can most certainly spawn yourself into a larger blossom that was unimagined because your own framework was distorting it. Now that you are lighting up on these distortions, most certainly you become the most epic idea of the beam of light to offer those ideas to the others who are searching in the moonlight for the bright light instead of one that is dancing among the shadows. So take yourself and be the idea of service to self in service to other selves. Now with this idea in play, with no obligation of other selves, with no idea of outcome of other selves and your interactions, this will only learn yourself better, faster, in a more fastidious way that will only be, let's say, looked upon by yourself higher, down here, offering more catalysts of separation for you to understand your own self in the first idea of subjective reality, giving you what you would call the idea of fear-based separations to opportune yourself to view that now in the subjective view of love that you previously have negated as love, only giving you an opportunity to ascend yourself that much what you would call quicker. So, this is all we have in the idea of our first idea of the subjective reality, and the first idea, doctrine, to the initiate school, first one rather. And then, let's say, we will speak upon in our next idea series channeling of that of number 2. So, once again, this is Jane from the Speaker Idea. It has been most exciting to once again co-create with that of humanity from this perspective. It is most energetic to be among what you would call humanity at this space-time now for the waking up, the vibrational love, the sense of isness. Has been no other time in your what you call history as it is now. And it is you that have done the work. And it is we that are honored to be among you. This is Jane. I will return you to that of Ocyphius. And our eternal thanks, that of Jane. Once again, this is Ocyphius from the Oversoul Collective Fire. I bid you a good day. Love eternal. Adonai. Wow, that was great. Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I love you so much, and we'll see you in the next now.